The coins clinked one by one onto the counter, their faint metallic echoes swallowed by the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Olivia Mitchell's fingers trembled as she counted them, a sad symphony of copper and silver. Each piece a fragment of survival. $2.74. She whispered, her voice barely audible. Her palm was damp, and her heart hammered against her ribs as though it, too, were counting the seconds until something went wrong. The coins were all she had left until payday next week. The cashier, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a name tag that read Betty, offered a sympathetic smile. "Take your time, honey," she said gently, starting to count the small pile. Behind Olivia, the line was growing. She could feel the tension thickening, the quiet sighs of impatience, the scuff of shoes, subtle shifting of weight. That said, "Hurry up." Olivia clutched the can of baby formula tighter against her chest. Her 6-month-old daughter, Emma, was asleep in her carrier, her tiny head resting against Olivia's heart. Every soft exhale from her baby reminded her why she couldn't afford to give up. Emma had been fussier lately, refusing to drink the regular formula. The pediatrician had recommended a new one, twice the price. Olivia had argued with herself for 2 days before finally deciding that Emma's health came first, even if it meant eating toast for dinner all week. Betty's fingers moved quickly across the coins. "Don't you worry, dear." "Money's money," she said, with a reassuring nod. But Olivia could feel the heat rising in her face. Her jeans were faded, her hair tied back in a messy knot. Her shirt had a small tear near the shoulder that she'd stitched last night by hand. She hadn't looked at herself in a mirror long enough to notice if she still looked like the woman she used to be, the confident marketing professional at Westridge Innovations. Before her world fell apart, she remembered those days clearly, walking into the gleaming glass office tower, coffee in hand, her name glowing on a cubicle tag, Olivia Mitchell, marketing manager. She'd been on her way to a bright career, full of ideas and energy. Then came James, handsome, charming, magnetic. He'd appeared at a company networking event like a dream come true. 6 months later, they were married. A year after that, he started controlling her little comments about her friends, her clothes, her decisions. Then silence, distance, and eventually the letter. "I never wanted to be a father," it had said. The memory still sliced her chest open every time she thought of it. "Is there a problem here?" The voice came from behind, low, impatient, masculine. Olivia turned slightly. A tall man in a charcoal suit stood a few feet away. One hand in his pocket, the other holding a sleek phone. His eyes were gray, sharp, and his expression, annoyance mixed with curiosity, made her feel even smaller. Betty looked up from the counter. "No problem, sir. Just counting a few coins." The man checked his watch. "I have a meeting in 15 minutes. Olivia's cheeks burned. "I'm sorry," she murmured, avoiding his gaze. "You can go ahead of me if you want." He didn't move. He studied her for a moment, the torn sleeve, the baby in her arms, the formula can on the counter. Something flickered across his face. A thought. Maybe recognition, but it passed. Betty finished counting and looked up. "Honey, you're short $3.18? Olivia's stomach dropped. She whispered, panic rising in her chest. She fumbled through her purse, old receipts, a broken keychain, a button, a few crumbs from a granola bar. Nothing. I thought I had enough. Her heart sank as she looked at the formula. She'd have to put it back and buy the cheaper one, the one that made Emma cry all night in pain. Her throat tightened. I'll cover the rest." The man said suddenly. Olivia froze. He stepped forward, pulling out his wallet. "Add whatever she's short to my bill." His tone had changed, softer, almost hesitant. "No, please," Olivia said quickly. "That's not necessary. It's $3, he replied, almost gently. "Consider it a good deed." He handed a 20 to Betty. "Keep the change." Betty looked from him to Olivia, then smiled faintly and nodded. "You've got yourself a kind one today." Olivia's throat closed up. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching the bag as Betty handed it over. "I promise I'll pay you back." The man's gaze lingered on her face, not pitying, but searching. "Do I know you from somewhere?" She shook her head quickly. "I don't think so." He looked as though he wanted to say more, but she turned and hurried toward the exit before the tears could fall. Outside, the cold November air hit her like a slap. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds, the kind that promised rain or snow. She pulled her coat tighter around. Emma Ann took a shaky breath. Her phone buzzed. She dug it out with trembling fingers. Mrs. Abernathy, the elderly woman who watched Emma when Olivia picked up night shifts at the diner. "Hello? Olivia, you need to come home right now," Mrs. Abernathy said, her voice trembling. "Emma's burning up with fever." Olivia's heart stopped. "What? How high?" "I don't know, sweetheart, but she's so hot I can feel it through the blanket." The world tilted. "I'm coming." She hung up, her mind spinning. The bus wouldn't come for 20 minutes. A cab would cost at least $15, half her grocery money. Her apartment was 15 blocks away. She started walking fast. "Is everything all right?" She turned. The man from the store was standing near the entrance, his phone in one hand, a faint frown on his face. "My baby's sick," Olivia said, her voice shaking. "I have to get home." "But the bus?" He didn't hesitate. "I have a car. I'll drive you." Olivia froze. "No, that's okay. You've already helped me enough. It's no trouble," he said. "It's cold, and your baby doesn't look well. Please, let me help." She hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to get into a stranger's car. But another cry from Emma inside her blanket made the decision for her. "Why would you help me?" she asked, wary. He looked down for a moment. "Because someone once helped me when I needed it most." He extended his hand. "I'm Daniel." Daniel Westridge. The name hit her like thunder. "Westridge." She blinked. "You mean Westridge Innovations?" He nodded. "Yes." Her pulse quickened. "I used to work there. In marketing." Daniel's eyes widened slightly. "Wait, Olivia Mitchell?" She nodded slowly. "I remember you," he said. "You left suddenly. Sent an email and disappeared. Everyone wondered what happened." Her throat tightened. "Life happened," she said softly. "Now please, can we go?" "She's burning up." He nodded immediately, guiding her toward a sleek black sedan parked near the curb. Inside the car, warmth enveloped them. Olivia buckled Emma in carefully while Daniel started the engine. The silence between them was heavy, full of unspoken memories and awkward familiarity. The city rolled by outside in a blur of gray buildings and headlights. "Do you still live near downtown?" Daniel asked quietly. "On 18th Street?" she said. "Above the laundromat." He nodded. "I'll get you there fast." For a while neither spoke. Olivia stared out the window, biting her lip. The baby stirred softly, letting out a faint whimper that broke her heart. Daniel finally said, "You were good at your job. One of the best. I always regretted not reaching out after you left." "Oh." She gave a hollow laugh. "I doubt anyone noticed I was gone." He glanced at her. "I did." Olivia looked away quickly. The words were kind, but they brought no comfort. She remembered the day she left, the humiliation, the fear, the desperation of packing her things while pregnant. Her hands shaking, her whole life had changed in a week. "Do you still work in marketing?" he asked. "No. I wait tables at Cedar Lane Diner." He looked genuinely surprised. "You're overqualified for that." "Oh, overqualified doesn't pay the bills?" she said quietly. He didn't argue when they finally pulled up outside her building. Olivia unbuckled Emma and turned to Daniel. "Thank you. I'll be fine from here." He nodded, but didn't move to leave. "Please, if you need anything, even a doctor, I can manage," she said, clutching her baby. "You've done enough." He looked like he wanted to insist, but instead reached into his pocket and handed her a business card. "If you change your mind," he said, "call me." "Ah!" Olivia hesitated before taking it. "Thank you." As she disappeared into the building, Daniel sat in his car, staring at the card she now held. "Olivia Mitchell," he whispered to himself. He couldn't shake the memory. Her face, her voice, the sadness in her eyes. Something about her had felt different this time. Not just familiar, important. He checked his phone. the meeting reminder flashing across the screen. He ignored it. Instead, he drove off into the falling dusk, unaware that this small act of kindness would soon unravel as the most life-changing chapter of both their lives. Asterisk the moment Olivia stepped into her small apartment. The warmth hit her like a wave, heavy, stifling, and wrong. Emma whimpered in her arms, her tiny body radiating heat through the blanket. "Mrs. Abernathy?" Olivia called out, panic tightening her throat. The old woman hurried from the kitchenette, her silver hair frizzy from worry. "Oh, sweetheart, thank goodness you're here." Olivia placed the baby gently on the worn sofa and pressed her hand to Emma's forehead. Her skin burned beneath her palm. "She was fine until an hour ago," Mrs. Abernathy said, wringing her hands. Then she started crying and wouldn't stop. "I tried the cool cloth like you taught me, but it's not helping."
Olivia's voice cracked.
"It's okay. I'll handle it." The words were brave, but inside, her heart was shattering. She'd been through so much sleepless nights, skipped meals, double shifts, but nothing terrified her more than Emma being sick. Every breath, every cry felt like it could break her. She grabbed the thermometer. 103.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Too high. Emma whimpered again, her face flushed and damped with sweat. Olivia swallowed hard. The free clinic was open late, but it was a 20-minute walk, and buses weren't running this late. She didn't have a car, and a taxi would eat what little she had left. Then she remembered the business. Card in her coat pocket, Daniel Westridge, CEO Westridge. Innovations. The man who had once stood at the top of the world she used to belong to. The man who, just hours ago, paid for her baby's formula without hesitation. She pulled the card out and stared at it. She could call a stranger, her former boss, no less at nearly 10 at night. No, that was unthinkable. But Emma whimpered again, weaker this time, and Olivia's resolve crumbled. She dialed. The line rang once. Then, Westridge. His voice was calm but alert. "Mr. Westridge, it's Olivia. I'm sorry to bother you," but her voice broke. "My baby has a fever. I can't afford a taxi, and the clinic's 20 minutes away." Then his tone shifted completely. "Text me your address. I'll be there in 10 minutes. "Wait, you don't have to," but he had already hung up. 10 minutes later, headlights swept across the cracked sidewalk outside her apartment. Olivia stood by the door holding Emma close, her coat thrown over both of them. Daniel stepped out of the car, still in his suit, his expression sharp with concern. "Let's go." Olivia slid into the passenger seat, Emma bundled on her lap. Daniel didn't speak as he drove, his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The silence was thick but not uncomfortable. At a red light, he glanced at her. "How long has she been like this?" "Since early evening," Olivia said softly. "She's been crying and barely eating." Daniel nodded, pressing the accelerator as the light turned green. "The hospital near Riverside has a pediatric wing. We'll go there." Olivia blinked. "That's a private hospital?" "I can't afford you can," he interrupted gently. "Tonight, you can." The words made her throat tighten. When they arrived, Daniel parked directly at the emergency entrance and guided her inside. Nurses took one look at Emma's flushed face and led them to an exam room. "High fever. Possible dehydration," one nurse murmured. Taking notes, Olivia hovered beside the bed as a doctor examined the baby, her heart pounding with every second that passed. Daniel stood quietly in the corner, arms folded, eyes following everything. There was no trace of the impatient man from the grocery store. He looked protective. After what felt like an eternity, the doctor straightened. "Good news. It's a viral infection, not serious. We'll bring the fever down and monitor her for a few hours." Olivia's knees nearly gave way in relief. She pressed her lips to Emma's tiny forehead. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel exhaled slowly. "She'll be okay?" "Yes," Olivia said, smiling weakly through tears. "Thanks to you," shook his head. "You would have found a way." As the hours passed, the sterile white of the hospital softened into something quieter. The monitors beeped steadily, and Emma slept peacefully in the crib beside them. Olivia sat in a chair, Her body sagging from exhaustion, Daniel returned from the cafeteria, handing her a cup of coffee. "You look like you haven't slept in a week." She gave a tired laugh. "Try 6 months." He smiled faintly. "I wouldn't last one night." Silence settled between them again, but it wasn't awkward. It was heavy with memory, with everything left unsaid. Finally, Daniel spoke. "Why did you really leave Westridge?" Olivia stared at the floor. "You read the resignation email?" Shook his head. "It didn't sound like you. You were passionate, talented. I thought you'd lead the department one day." Her throat ached. "James didn't want me working there anymore." Daniel frowned. "Your husband?" She nodded. "He said it was stressful for me, that he could take care of everything. So I quit." She let out a shaky breath. "Then I found out he'd drained our savings. 2 months before Emma was born, he left." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I'm sorry," she shrugged, eyes glistening. "Don't be. I survived. That's what matters." Studied her quietly. "And you're doing it alone." "Yes," she said, "with a little help from Mrs. Abernathy and a lot of cheap coffee." He chuckled softly, but the sound was bittersweet. Then, more quietly, "You should have told someone." She looked at him, startled. "Who would have cared? I was just another employee." Daniel leaned forward. "You weren't. You made people believe in what we were building. I still remember your pitch. Innovation should start with empathy. Everyone laughed at first, but it stuck with me." Olivia blinked. "You remember that?" He nodded. "I wrote it on the whiteboard in my office. It's still there." For the first time that night, she smiled a real smile. Soft and shy. Something shifted between them then, something fragile but undeniable. By morning, the fever had broken. Emma stirred awake, her tiny fingers curling around.
Olivia's relief washed over her like sunlight breaking through clouds.
The doctor confirmed she could go home. Olivia thanked him repeatedly, clutching the discharge papers like a lifeline at the front desk. She hesitated when the receptionist mentioned payment. Before she could speak, Daniel handed over his card. "Put it on file." "Mr. Westridge," he looked at her firmly. "Don't argue." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to repay you." "Don't," he said softly. "Just promise you'll let someone help you next time." Olivia opened her mouth to reply, but emotion caught in her throat as they drove back through the quiet morning streets, dawn painting the sky in pale gold. Olivia leaned her head against the window. "I used to dream of mornings like this," she murmured. "Driving to work, coffee in hand, sunlight through the glass towers." Daniel glanced at her. "You could have that again." She laughed faintly. "Not in this lifetime." He didn't press further. But in his mind, an idea was already forming, one that would change both their lives forever. Back at her apartment, Mrs. Abernathy greeted them at the door, relief flooding her face when she saw the baby smiling again. "Thank heavens," she breathed. "You scared the life out of me, child." Olivia hugged her. "Thank you for staying." Daniel lingered by the doorway. "I should get going." Olivia turned, holding Emma. "I don't know how to thank you." "For everything," gave a small smile. "You already did," she frowned. When you didn't give up?" And with that, he left, that night. Olivia sat by the window, the city lights shimmering below. Emma slept peacefully in the crib beside her. On the table lay Daniel's business card. She traced her finger over the embossed letters, remembering his voice, calm, kind. And so unlike the man she thought CEOs were supposed to be, she whispered to herself, "Why didn't you tell me?" It wasn't just about the formula anymore. It was about the years she'd spent hiding her pain. Pretending she didn't need help. Maybe, she thought, life was giving her another chance, not out of pity, but out of fate. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in his office, the skyline of Boston stretching beyond the glass wall. He hadn't slept either. On his desk sat a folder labeled Community Outreach Program. He opened it, tapping his pen absently. He'd started it years ago, a corporate initiative meant to support single parents and struggling families. But like most things, buried under corporate red tape. It had stalled now for the first time. It meant something personal. He looked at his reflection in the glass. A man who had everything but still felt something missing. Empathy starts here, he murmured. Recalling Olivia's old words, he smiled faintly. You were right, Olivia. The next day Olivia arrived at the diner late for her shift. Her boss, Marlene, frowned. You okay, Liv? You look like you've been through a storm. I'm fine, Olivia said, tying her apron. Just a rough night with Emma. Well, you've got a table waiting, Marlene said. Nodding toward the corner booth, Olivia grabbed her notepad and turned only to freeze. Sitting there, coffee in hand, was Daniel Westridge. He looked up, smiling faintly. You serve coffee here too? Olivia blinked, stunned. You followed me? Not exactly, he said. I wanted breakfast and happened to walk into the first diner I saw. He gestured at the menu. Looks like fate has a sense of humor. Olivia laughed despite herself. You don't seem like the diner type. I wasn't, he admitted, until last night. He paused, then met her eyes. I need to ask you something important after your shift. Olivia's heart skipped. Is something wrong? No, Daniel said softly. Something's about to be right. Asterisk, the bell above the diner door jingled as another gust of cool air swept through. Olivia stood frozen by the counter, tray in hand, her mind spinning faster than her heartbeat. Daniel Westridge. The man who had once occupied the 30th floor office with glass walls and a view of the city now sat in her section, calmly sipping black coffee as though this were the most ordinary morning in the world. She approached slowly, gripping her notepad for balance. Are you really here for breakfast? She asked. Daniel looked up, that faint smile returning. Among other things, Olivia raised an eyebrow. You know this place serves powdered eggs and burnt toast, right? He chuckled softly. Then I'll take my chances. Something about his ease disarmed her. She'd imagined this man as unreachable, fixture of success she could never touch again, but sitting here, his sleeves rolled up and hair slightly out of place, he looked human. What'll it be? She asked, flipping open her pad. He scanned the menu. I'll have whatever you'd recommend. Olivia smirked. You're trusting a diner waitress with your breakfast? I trusted you with a company's marketing once, he replied. You didn't disappoint. Her cheeks warmed. She scribbled down the order and walked to the kitchen, feeling something strange flutter in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or confusion. Or both. A different kind of conversation. When she returned with his food, Daniel had his laptop open. But instead of corporate charts or emails, the screen showed a photo of a smiling group of Westridge employees, the marketing team. Right in the center, frozen in time, was Olivia. She laughed softly. Setting the plate down, where did you even find that? It's from our company archive, Daniel said. We used it for our 5-year anniversary brochure. He turned the screen slightly toward her. You look happy there. I was, she said quietly. That day, I actually believed I was building something meaningful. Daniel leaned back, studying her. You were. That campaign you led, the one about small businesses rebuilding after layoffs. It inspired the board to create an entire grant program. You probably don't even know that. Olivia blinked, stunned. I had no idea. He smiled faintly. You planted seeds you never saw grow. She didn't know how to respond. Compliments from a man like him felt heavy, not because she didn't deserve them, because they reminded her of the version of herself she'd lost. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. Daniel looked down for a moment, tracing the rim of his coffee cup. Because I should have said it then. The offer after her shift ended, Daniel waited outside. The autumn wind tugged at his coat as he stood by his car, hands in his pockets. Olivia stepped out, tightening her scarf. You said you needed to ask me something. Yes, he said. I want you to come back. Back to Westridge. He nodded. Not in the same role, unless you want it. I'm building something new. An internal initiative. A program to help single parents re-enter the workforce. You'd be perfect to lead it. Olivia's heart stuttered. You're serious? Completely. She stared at him, torn between disbelief and fear. Daniel, I haven't touched a marketing plan in years. I serve coffee and scrape together rent. I don't even own a working laptop. He smiled. Then we'll fix that. Why me? She asked quietly. He hesitated. Because I believe in second chances, and I think you do too. His words lingered in the cold air. Olivia shook her head, overwhelmed. I don't know if I can step back into that world. People there knew me before everything fell apart. They'll see right through me. Then let them, he said softly. They'll see what survival looks like. Her eyes filled with tears. You make it sound simple. It's not, he admitted. But it's possible. It's a first step 3 days later. Olivia stood in front of the towering glass building of Westridge Innovations, the place that had once been her pride, then her prison, and finally, her ghost. She almost turned back twice before stepping inside. The lobby was just as she remembered. Polished marble floors, modern art, and a quiet hum of ambition. The receptionist looked up, smiling politely. Can I help you? Olivia swallowed. I'm here to see Mr. Westridge. The woman typed something on her computer, then nodded. He's expecting you. When the elevator doors opened on the top floor, Olivia's reflection in the mirrored walls caught her off guard. Tired eyes. Yes, but stronger than she remembered. Daniel met her at the elevator. His smile genuine. You came. I almost didn't, she admitted. I know, he said. That's why I waited in the hallway. She laughed despite her nerves. He led her into a conference room where folders, laptops, and charts filled the table. This, he said, gesturing to a large screen, is Project Rise. She read the tagline on the presentation, helping single parents build new beginnings. Her breath caught. You really meant it, Daniel nodded. But I can't make it real without someone who understands what it feels like. Olivia turned to him. And you think I do? I know you do. He handed her a folder. Inside was a mock-up, potential branding ideas, community partnerships, social campaigns, the kind of work she used to dream about doing. Olivia's fingers trembled slightly as she flipped through it. You've already started this. I started it, he said, but I need someone who can finish it. Their eyes met. Something silent passed between them. Trust. Recognition, maybe destiny, old wounds. New beginnings over the next few weeks. Olivia found herself spending more time at Westridge than she ever thought possible. Daniel had set up a small office for her, modest but bright, with a desk that overlooked the city. He'd even brought in a small playpen for Emma, so Olivia could bring her when childcare fell through at first. She felt out of place among the crisp suits and polished shoes, but soon her instincts returned. Ideas came faster than she could write them down. Campaigns centered on empathy, resilience, and community rebuilding. One afternoon, while reviewing presentation slides, Daniel knocked softly on her door. How's it going? Olivia smiled, exhaustion and satisfaction mixing in her expression. It's strange, I feel. Alive again. He grinned. That's the best answer I could have hoped for. But then his gaze softened. You know, you don't have to prove anything to anyone here. I do, she said quietly, to myself. He nodded, understanding completely. Shared scars one evening. After most employees had gone home, Olivia found Daniel still in his office. His tie was loose, his sleeves rolled up, and the city glowed behind him like liquid gold. You should go home, she said from the doorway. So should you, he replied, smiling. She stepped closer. You work too much. Occupational hazard. She laughed softly, then noticed a photo on his desk. A woman with kind eyes holding a small boy. Your wife? She asked gently. His smile faded slightly. Was. She passed away 5 years ago. Olivia's heart sank. I'm so sorry, he nodded. Cancer. She was stronger than I ever was. He looked down at his hands. After she died, I buried myself in work. Built walls. Told myself I was too busy to feel anything.
Hey.
He looked up, meeting her eyes. Then you showed up at that grocery store, counting coins. And suddenly, I remembered what empathy looks like. Olivia's throat tightened. You didn't have to help me. Maybe not, he said softly. But but I think I was meant to. The project began to gain traction, and so did their unspoken connection. Daniel would drop by her office under the pretense of reviewing progress. But their conversations always drifted from strategy to music, from books to childhood memories. One afternoon, as they worked side by side over lunch, Emma giggled from her playpen. Daniel looked over and smiled. "She likes you," Olivia teased. "She's a good judge of character," he said. Olivia laughed. "You sound like someone who's been around kids." "I haven't," he admitted. "But I think I'm getting the hang of it." He reached out to hand Emma her rattle, and the baby grabbed his finger instead. Squealing with delight, something melted in his eyes, something Olivia hadn't seen before. "Careful," she teased gently. "She's good at stealing hearts." "Too late," he said softly. For a brief second, time froze, just the three of them in that warm office. Sunlight spilling across the desk like blessing, the return of the past, but peace, Olivia knew, was fragile. A week later, she received an email that made her blood run cold. Subject: Re James Mitchell inquiry regarding Westridge Innovations. She opened it. Heart pounding, the message was short. "Olivia, I heard you're working at Westridge again. We need to talk." James, her stomach twisted. The man who'd abandoned her, who'd left her pregnant and penniless, had somehow found her. Daniel noticed her pale expression as she left her office that afternoon. "Everything okay?" he asked. She hesitated. "It's complicated. Want to talk about it?" "Not yet," she said, forcing a smile. "Maybe tomorrow." But that night she couldn't sleep. Memories of betrayal, of fear, came rushing back. The last time she'd seen James, he'd told her she'd never make it without him. Now, she was finally proving him wrong. But he could still destroy her peace with a single message. The phone call the next morning. She called the number attached to the email. "Olivia," James said, his voice as smooth and familiar as poison. "You look great on the company site. Working for Westridge again, huh? What do you want?" She demanded. "I made mistakes," he said. "I want to make things right. I want to see my daughter." Olivia's chest tightened. "You lost that right when you walked out." "I have rights," he snapped. "And I'll get them." Her hands shook as she ended the call. Moments later, her office door opened. Daniel stood there, concern etched across his face. "You're shaking." She blinked hard, fighting back tears. "It's James. He found me." Daniel's eyes hardened. "What did he say?" "He wants to see Emma. But he doesn't care about her. He just wants control." Daniel's voice turned steady, protective. "He won't get it." Olivia looked at him, trembling. "You don't understand. He always gets what he wants." Daniel stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. "Not this time. Not while I'm here." Promised that evening. As the sun dipped below the skyline, Daniel drove Olivia and Emma home. The silence was heavy but filled with unspoken determination. When they reached her building, he turned to her. "You're not alone anymore. Remember that." Olivia looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not just a CEO, but a man who understood loss, pain, and rebuilding. "Why are you doing all this for me?" she asked softly. He smiled faintly. "Because I think we're both trying to fix something broken." Her voice was barely a whisper. "And what if it can't be fixed?" "Then we build something new," he said. "Together." Olivia didn't reply, but as she carried Emma upstairs, her heart whispered what her lips couldn't. Maybe some miracles don't come from heaven. Maybe they walk beside us in gray suits, carrying quiet kindness instead of wings. Asterisk the morning after James's call, Boston felt heavier. Clouds hung low over the skyline like gray steel, and Olivia could almost feel the weight of her past pressing against her chest. She stood at the kitchen sink, watching steam rise from the coffee she couldn't bring herself to drink. Emma babbled softly from her high chair, slapping her hands against the tray. That tiny sound was the only thing that kept her grounded. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She knew it was him. She silenced it. A knock followed a moment later. Her pulse leaped. When she opened the door, Daniel stood there, crisp suit, coffee in hand. The faintest smile softening his features. You didn't answer my text, he said. So I figured caffeine might help. Olivia forced a small laugh. I didn't sleep much. He studied her face. Because of him? She hesitated, then nodded. Daniel stepped inside quietly. You don't have to handle this alone anymore, Olivia, she sighed, looking at Emma. He said he wants to see her. But it's not about Emma. It never was. He wants to hurt me because I left. Daniel placed the coffee on the table. Then we'll make sure he can't. Olivia blinked. We? He met her gaze steadily. Yes, we. The meeting 2 days later, James showed up at Westridge Innovations. He looked almost the same, the polished smile, the perfect haircut, but Olivia saw the same emptiness behind his eyes that she remembered from the night he left. He strode into the reception area, ignoring the guard's attempts to stop him. I'm here to see Olivia Mitchell. When she appeared, Daniel was beside her. James's smirk faltered slightly when he recognized him. The Daniel Westridge. I should have guessed. Olivia's stomach twisted. What are you doing here? I came to talk, he said smoothly. No lawyers, no threats, just talk. Daniel crossed his arms. You can talk here. I'm staying. James laughed under his breath. Of course you are. The knight in the tailored armor? Olivia's voice trembled. Say what you came to say. I want to see my daughter, James said. You've kept her from me long enough.
How?
She's barely 6 months old, Olivia snapped. You left before she was born. You can't just walk back and claim her now. James's tone hardened. I can, and I will, unless you make it worth my while not to. Daniel's eyes darkened. Are you blackmailing her? James shrugged. Call it what you want. She's working for you again, right? That's valuable. Maybe I just want a piece of it. Temperature in the room seemed to drop. Daniel stepped forward, his voice low but lethal. If you contact her again, I'll make sure every lawyer in this city knows your name, and not in the way you want.
Out.
But he backed off, muttering, We'll see about that. When he was gone, Olivia collapsed into a chair, shaking. Daniel knelt beside her. He can't hurt you anymore. I won't let him. She met his eyes and saw not pity, but fierce conviction. For the first time in years, she believed someone meant those words. The offer of the confrontation stirred something in Daniel. That night he sat alone in his office, city lights stretching beneath him. Thinking about the people who fall through the cracks, people like Olivia. The next morning, he called her in. I've been thinking, he said. Project Rise shouldn't just be a pilot. It should be a foundation, a full initiative to fund single-parent scholarships, housing assistance, and employment training. Olivia blinked. That's huge. He smiled faintly. Exactly why I need someone to run it permanently. She froze. You're offering me the position? Yes. Director of Community Development. Full salary, benefits, flexibility for Emma, everything you need. Her throat tightened. Daniel, that's life-changing. He nodded. That's the point. Tears shimmered in her eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said gently. You've earned this. She laughed softly through the tears. You always did know how to make impossible things sound easy, he smiled. That's because you make them look possible. Stormcloud's success, however, attracts attention, and not all of it kind. Within a week, gossip began swirling inside Westridge Innovations. Anonymous messages. On internal forums questioned why the CEO had hired a former waitress to lead a flagship program. One article on a business blog speculated about Daniel's personal relationship with his new director, Olivia. Found the post by accident. The comments were cruel. She closed her laptop, her stomach twisting. When Daniel entered her office minutes later, she couldn't hide the panic. They're saying awful things, she whispered. They think I'm here because of you. Daniel frowned. I'll handle it. How? Fire half the company. You can't fight gossip. He moved closer, lowering his voice. Then I'll fight it with results. Let them talk. We'll show them what purpose looks like. His calm steadiness anchored her. Still, that night, she cried quietly beside Emma's crib, afraid that the world would always find a way to punish people who rose from nothing. The Gala 2 officially launched Project Rise. The company hosted a charity gala. It was Daniel's idea, but he insisted Olivia take the stage. She said, panicking as she read the event invitation. "Daniel, I can't. I'm not. You're the heart of this program," he said. "People need to hear your story." That night, the ballroom glittered with chandeliers and polished silverware. Olivia stood backstage, hands trembling around her cue cards. Through the curtain, she saw journalists, investors, and executives, including a few who had once ignored her emails when she was lower on the ladder. Daniel found her just before she went on. "You don't need the cards," he said softly. "Just speak from the truth." When she stepped onto the stage, the light blinded her for a second. Then she began. "I used to work here," she said, her voice shaking. "I thought I had everything. A good job, a home, a family. Then one day I lost it all." The room fell silent. "I learned that strength isn't about never falling," she continued. "It's about getting up when you have no reason to believe you can. Project Rise is about giving people that reason." When she finished, the applause thundered. Daniel stood at the side of the stage, clapping with quiet pride. In that moment, the whispers, the shame, the years of struggle, all of it vanished under the weight of something greater: respect. The threat returns the next day. Daniel received an email. Subject: "You and your charity starlet look good together." It was from James. Attached was a blurry photo of Daniel and Olivia leaving the gala, his hand resting protectively on her back. Asterisk: "If you don't want this going public, meet me tomorrow. We can make a deal." Daniel's jaw tightened. He forwarded the message to his legal team and then called Olivia. "He's not giving up," Daniel said. Her voice trembled. "What does he want now?" "Money, probably. But I'm not giving him a cent." She swallowed hard. "He's dangerous when cornered. Then we'll corner him first." Daniel said the confrontation. They met James in a cafe the next afternoon. Public, safe, well lit. Daniel insisted on being there. James leaned back, smirking. "You to make quite the picture. The fallen angel and the corporate savior." "Cut to the point," Daniel said. James spread his hands. "Simple. 50,000, and I delete everything. The photos, the emails, all of it." Olivia's eyes widened. "You'd blackmail me for money you don't deserve?" He grinned. "Deserve has nothing to do with it. You think anyone believes a waitress just earned that job?" Daniel's voice turned to ice. "You're finished." He slid a document across the table, a printed copy of a restraining order application, already filed. "You violated workplace property laws when you entered Westridge uninvited. Try anything again, and you'll spend a night in jail." James's smirk faltered. "You wouldn't? I would," Daniel said evenly. "And unlike you, I keep my promises." For a long moment, James stared at him, weighing his chances. Then he stood, muttering, "You'll regret this." Daniel didn't look away. "No, you will." When he was gone, Olivia exhaled shakily, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You already did," Daniel said. "You trusted me." Healing weeks passed. The scandal faded. The program flourished. Stories of families finding work and children getting health care filled Westridge's social feeds. Donors poured in. One evening, Olivia found Daniel in the rooftop garden, staring at the city lights. "You never stop," she said softly. He smiled. "Neither do you." They stood side by side, the wind cool against their faces. "Do you ever wonder why our paths crossed again?" she asked. "All the time," he said. "Maybe the universe just decided we both needed a reminder that kindness can rebuild what pain destroys." She looked up at him, eyes glistening. "You've given me back everything I thought I'd lost." Daniel shook his head. "No, Olivia. You rebuilt it yourself. I just held the ladder." They laughed quietly, and for the first time in years. Olivia felt truly light, as though the pieces of her life were finally falling into place. A quiet moment later that night, after Daniel drove her home, Olivia carried a sleeping Emma upstairs. The city hummed softly outside. She laid her daughter in the crib and whispered, "You're safe now, my love. We're safe." Then she turned toward the window, where the distant glow of the Westridge Tower cut through the dark. In that light, she didn't just see Daniel. She saw hope, the kind that doesn't ask permission to stay. Asterisk, a new dawn. The first rays of spring spilled over. Boston like a promise. The city was waking street vendors, setting up their carts, buses sighing at red lights, pigeons scattering as the world stretched toward another day. Inside the modest apartment, above the laundromat, Olivia stood by the window holding a mug of coffee. For the first time in years, she wasn't counting coins. Emma gurgled in her playpen, chewing on a stuffed giraffe. She'd started trying to stand on her own, wobbly and determined, just like her mother once was. Olivia smiled. The fever, the fear, the endless nights of worry, all of it felt like a distant echo now. Her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Good morning, Director. Don't forget your 9 a.m. meeting. The board's excited to hear your proposal. Bring that courage you always underestimate." Olivia laughed softly. Director. She still wasn't used to the title, but she had earned it. The pitch Westridge Tower gleamed in the morning sun as she walked. Through the revolving doors, gone were the anxious glances and whispered gossip from months before. People greeted her by name now, not with pity, but respect. In the elevator, she caught her reflection in the mirrored walls. Confident posture, tailored blazer, soft determination in her eyes. When she entered the boardroom, Daniel was already there, flipping through notes. He looked up, his smile easy but proud. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." He leaned in. "Remember, they'll listen to you because you've lived what they're trying to understand." Olivia nodded, heart steady. She began her presentation, expanding Project Rise into a nationwide initiative. She spoke about single parents rebuilding careers, about communities revived through empathetic-driven policies. Every statistic she shared had a heartbeat. Behind it, people whose stories mirrored her own. When she finished, the room was silent. Then, one by one, the executives began to nod. An older board member finally said, "Ms. Mitchell, this is the most compelling proposal we've seen in years. You've got our full support." Applause filled the room. Daniel met her eyes across the table. Quiet pride, a hint of awe. Olivia exhaled. She had done it. After the meeting, they walked together down the hall, the city sprawling beyond the glass. Daniel turned to her. "How does it feel?" "Like I'm finally standing on solid ground again," she said. "Only this time, I built it myself." "You didn't just build it, you built a bridge for others." She hesitated. "I couldn't have done it without you." He shook his head. "You could have. You just didn't have someone to remind you yet." Olivia laughed softly. "You're good at saying the right thing, you know that?" He grinned. Occupational hazard. But when their eyes met, something unspoken lingered, a tenderness that neither needed to name. The visit that evening? As she was packing up to leave, her assistant knocked on the door. "Olivia, there's someone in the lobby asking for you." Her stomach tightened. "Who?" He said his name is James Mitchell." Olivia froze. She thought that chapter was closed. She took a steadying breath and walked down to the lobby. James stood near the glass doors, looking different, thinner, older, humbled. He held an envelope in his hand. "Olivia," he said quietly, "I'm not here to fight." She crossed her arms. "Then say what you came to say," he sighed. "You were right. I wasn't ready to be a father. But I saw the news, your program, your speech. You've done something incredible." She frowned, wary. "What do you want?" "Nothing," he said simply. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry, and thank you for raising our daughter better than I ever could have." For the first time, his words sounded sincere. He handed her the envelope. "It's the last of my savings. For Emma's future, I don't expect forgiveness." Olivia looked down at it, torn. "You don't have to, I do," he said. "Because I finally understand what love looks like. It looks like sacrifice." He nodded once, turned and walked away. Olivia stood there for a long time, the city's evening rush swirling around her. Then she whispered, "Goodbye," and meant it. a quiet celebration that weekend. Daniel hosted a small dinner at his home, not a grand event. Just a handful of close colleagues and friends from the foundation. Olivia arrived with Emma, who immediately became the star of the evening, crawling between chairs and laughing at everyone's attention as the group toasted the success of Project Rise. Daniel caught Olivia's eye from across the table. Later, when the guests had left and the house was quiet, they stood on the balcony, city lights glittering below. "I'm proud of you," he said softly. She smiled. "You've already said that 3 times tonight. I'll probably say it 100 more." The wind tugged gently at her hair. "You've changed too, you know," she said. "You're not the same man I worked 4 years ago." He tilted his head. "How so?" "You used to lead with logic," she said. "Now you lead with heart." He smiled faintly. "Maybe you reminded me it's okay to have one." For a long moment, they said nothing. The city stretched out before them, vast, alive, full of stories just like theirs. Then Daniel spoke again. "Olivia, I've been thinking about the future." She looked at him, her pulse quickening. "Not just for the program," he said. "For us." Olivia's breath caught. He continued gently. "I don't know where this goes, but I know I don't want to go there without you." Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel," he smiled. "No pressure, just possibility." She laughed softly, wiping her tears. "You and your speeches." He reached for her hand. "Only when the moment deserves one." And for the first time in years, Olivia didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was living. Asterisk full circle 6 months later, Project Rise launched its first nationwide branch. News outlets covered the story. Former single mother leads groundbreaking program for families in need. Olivia stood on a small stage in a community center in Chicago, surrounded by parents who reminded her of herself, tired but hopeful. Emma, now toddling on her own, clapped her hands as her mother spoke. "This program isn't about charity," Olivia said. "It's about opportunity, about the truth that no one is ever too broken to rebuild." The crowd applauded, some with tears in their eyes, at the back of the room. Daniel watched quietly, pride radiating in his gaze. He wasn't the center of attention. He didn't want to be. This was Olivia's moment. When she finished, she stepped off the stage and walked straight to him. "Well," she asked, grinning. He smiled. "You've officially changed the world." She shook her head. "Not the world. Just the part that needed it most." He reached down to pick up Emma, who giggled and grabbed his tie. "It looks like she agrees," Olivia laughed, her heart full. "She's the reason all of this exists." Daniel nodded. "And you're the reason hope does." Epilogue: the letter months later, Olivia found a quiet evening to herself. Emma was asleep, and the city outside pulsed softly with life. She opened a box of keepsakes, hospital bracelets, old photographs, and at the bottom, the business card Daniel had once handed her outside the grocery store. She smiled at it, tracing the embossed letters with her thumb. Then she took out a piece of stationery and began to write. "Dear Daniel, I never told you what that night really meant. When you offered to pay for the formula, it wasn't just money, it was dignity. You saw me when I was invisible. You reminded me that kindness isn't a favor. It's a bridge. You built one when I couldn't see the other side. If you ever doubt your purpose again, remember this. You helped me believe I still had one." Oh, she folded the letter carefully and tucked it into the same box. Some things, she thought, didn't need to be sent. They just needed to be kept close, reminders of how far she'd come. Final scene months later. The city hosted an awards gala honoring social innovators. Olivia was the keynote speaker. As she walked on stage, applause filled the hall, not for wealth or power, but for courage in the audience. Daniel stood with Emma on his hip, smiling proudly. Olivia began, her voice strong and serene. "Once, a stranger behind me in a grocery store changed my life with 3 simple words. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't tell him because I thought strength meant silence. I was wrong. Strength means accepting help, rebuilding, and then turning back to lift someone else. This is not my story alone. It's proof that no act of kindness is ever wasted. The hall erupted in applause. Daniel's eyes met hers from across the crowd. No words, just quiet gratitude, mutual respect, and something deeper that needed no definition. As the lights glimmered and music swelled, Olivia held her head high, her heart full, her journey complete.